And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify tap, you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, you're too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for their prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the leaders he was planning. I had them all out before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. Or that flight to Amsterdam. When my accountant and minus my family found out too and didn't like it. You're not in the salon with Dale said and I thought he was biased. Then I got a Venmo that said copy the finest. Before my foolishness settled in. Recorded the whole tape before we got to Berlin. This close to giving up and now never again. Don't overlook the work and come expecting to win. In the end, my word, never put nothing over the squad. Got it right up under their nose and fighter facade. Off the cliff with broken wings, I'm aware of the odds. Enough faith for us all, I'm the one for the job. Most days, catching sun rays, baby, look like the front page. Overthinking what they might say, have it your way, yeah. The biggest threat is something they never seen. Dial it up, patch me into the screen. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up.
Hey, good evening. This is Abdul Shahid Lukman of Coffee, Current Events, and Politics, the most dangerous show on social media. Well, look, I am the co-host, but Jackie will be joining us in a little while. So we welcome you tonight for another rendition of our show. This is actually part 2 of what we started yesterday. A lot of you who were with us yesterday, we went a little long on the subject of our children being protected and abused, which I thought was a good show. Many of you thought it was a great show too. And so we didn't get a chance to get to our subject of the NFL. So here we are. But first, I would like to, there's something that's been on my mind. I was surfing the internet today and, a lot of stuff, just took me back. But there's one thing outside of, I know a lot of you know about the woman and the Gorilla Glue and all the other kind of stuff. Yeah. That was something that really took me for a loop. But then there was something else that really got me too. And, the rapper with the diamond in the middle of his forehead, right? So that really got me. So, this is my take on the whole thing. You remember the movie Idiocracy? The comedy about a future United States in which all the idiots were in charge of everything and the society was in complete chaos? Well, with recent events, it appears that we may be seeing art imitating life. If you think that this is just simply hyperbole, let me introduce you to little Uzi Vert. I know. You don't know who he is. I don't know who he is. It appears that nobody knows who the fuck he is, but he apparently, a lot of people know him enough in order for him to have earned $28 million from, I guess, what he would call music, to be able to afford a $24 million diamond, which he, wait for it, had embedded into his forehead. Yes, Lil Uzi Vert, or someone just as stupid as him, thought this was a great idea. In an industry that continues to lower the bar for outrageous antics, to me, this takes the cake. Now, I guess the facial tattoos and the unintelligible lyrics just weren't enough. He had to transform himself into some monstrosity that you would have seen in a Sinbad movie. But I think also that it is an indictment on what I would see as or call the capitalist mindset, which is often insensitive to the hardships of others. Now, never mind that this egregious display of wealth during a pandemic, which has seen mass unemployment, severe food insecurity, housing insecurity, and record numbers never seen before since the Great Depression is itself, to me, I've seen. Especially since most of the people affected the most by this pandemic are Black and brown people, his targeted audience. $24 million, folks, could have helped a lot of people in need. Yet, this idiot decides to have it displayed, this diamond displayed in the middle of his forehead. I guess maybe that's what they mean when they say, do not cast your pearls before swine. Now, I know kids today don't like hearing us old folks talk about the good old days. But you know what, kids? Fuck that. It is time that we elders, put your egos aside, and it's the time that we elders take you back to a time when artistic expression didn't involve having your face looking like a map of the Appalachian Mountains. Yeah, I said that because apparently by Lil Uzi Vert having this diamond embedded in his head, it caused a physical reaction where his whole face swollen up. So, I mean, there you go. Now, kids, there were excesses in our day. I admit, Mr. T, he had all those gold chains. And then, in the golden age of hip hop, a lot of the rappers was sporting these thick gold chains that we used to call Dookie Gold at the time. And, the girls, Salt and Pepper and all of them, we used to wear the old big gold earrings. And yeah, we had our successes. And let's not forget all the different looks of the rock stars too. But no one received radioactive poisoning from trying to impress their fans. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating. Little Uzi didn't get radiation poisoning from his stunt. But if you ask me, he can be cast in the next edition of the American Horror Story franchise. We're going to be right back. In the meantime, share this video. Go to the notifications and click like. Y'all know what to do. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, the better half will join me in a few minutes.
I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Ho believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Todd told the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed us? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on you.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of Coffee, Current Events, and Politics in Lukman Nation.
The most dangerous show on social media, bar none.
Well, our camera looks a little weird. Let me fix that.
Okay, let's fix it.
Yes.
So while you're fixing that, I mean, look, what do you want me to do to fill the time? I could sing.
Sing a song.
Let me see. Unforgettable in every way. But we'd like to thank you all for coming and joining us on YouTube and on Facebook, and I believe on Twitter.
On Twitter?
Right, we're on Twitter too. So, we got all three platforms. So you can see the lovely Mrs. Lukman. And
there we go.
And the handsome face of yours truly.
I
want to be like Stevie. Like I was looking at I was on Twitter and I was looking at Stevie Wonder's Twitter thing. Right? And Stevie, he's not a man of few words, but I tell you one thing, I was watching some of his videos. And you're famous. You're famous when you can say, "Hi, y'all, it's me." You know what I mean?
I want us to get to where we just pop up on the screen and we're just like, "Hey, y'all,
right?
It's us."
Yeah. I mean, I just thought that was so cool. I was like, of course you're Stevie Wonder.
Who else would you be?
I mean, you got to be like from another planet, or you do not know who Stevie Wonder is. So I think that he's one of those ones that can really. Michael Jackson, of course, and when he was living, Michael could be one that says, "Hi, it's me." Right. But I mean, I just thought it was cool that Stevie just like, "It's me." You know what I mean? It's me. Yeah.
So yes, y'all, it's us. Yes, y'all. To the beach, y'all. Okay, I'm showing my age, but yes, y'all, it's us. And look, we got to get into this discussion about the NFL. that we didn't have time to get into last night, because it is really, really important. The hypocrisy and the disconnect.
Yeah.
It was just wild. Now, just for disclaimer's sake, we didn't watch the Super Bowl. We have not watched the Super Bowl. Abdus has never been a big football fan, except for when the Eagles were playing, because he's he's from the Philadelphia area. And somehow I still married him. I don't know how. But I was a huge football fan. Football fan. Watch college football, pro football, preseason,
Pee-wee football. I mean, parents were going to call like, "What is this creepy woman sitting up there watching our kids play?"
Driving by, watching Pee-wee football games, cheering for kids I ain't know. Right. But I mean, I love football, of course, up until what happened. The NFL blackballed Colin Kaepernick. Yeah. Why come? Because that Negro had the nerve to stand up for other Negroes who were being assaulted by this white supremacist system. So the Super Bowl Sunday, and by the way, the other disclaimer, that weird noise you hear in the background, that's our attempt at distracting Brewski from making a cameo appearance. So right. He is laying to waste his big giant bones.
So there's nothing wrong with your audio. It's just a dog that's trying his best to chew through this heavy plastic bone. That he's had for a couple of years, and he just he can't accept the fact that he just can't chew through this thing.
Yeah, there's not a demon in here. That's Brewski breathing heavy, really getting into his chewing regimen right now. So anyway, so we didn't watch the Super Bowl. We heard about the shenanigans, not from the game, but from the pregame, from the NFL's attempts at, I don't know, racial sensitivity, racial inclusivity.
Oh man,
racial diversity.
It was a very clumsy attempt at trying to show the more enlightened side of the NFL. And the thing of it is, I think after they had all of this controversy, I think it started with the guy who was accused of beating his girl,
Ray Rice, a few years ago. Yeah,
I don't know why I keep saying Ray Lewis, but Ray Rice. And the whole thing, a bunch of feminist women got jobs off of that.
A bunch of white
feminist women. White women got jobs off of a black woman getting her ass whooped in the elevator. And but then when Kaepernick was doing his protests, and now the NFL had to fight the accusations of racism and all the other things that was coming out at the time, then the NFL started, hey, we got to look for some people to, to start, bringing us along into the 21st century. And they spent millions of dollars doing that. I mean, people are getting paid big salaries. And Jackie, look, these big salaries that these people are getting, this is what they produce.
This is exactly what they produced. And let's be clear on the whole Ray Rice situation, because we always have to explain this stuff. Listen, according to both of their accounts, they were both wailing on each other. What we saw in the video was what happened, in the elevator. But Ray Rice's wife came out and said she put her hands on him too. Now, we always talk about trust black women, believe black women. That black woman said that she did not want her husband to lose his career, that she supported him, that he made a huge, terrible mistake. He was in counseling, therapy, whatever. Nobody listened to that black woman. No. Nobody listened to her. And I'm not at all saying that Ray Rice had that he shouldn't have been punished in some way for what he did. Hell yeah, he should have been punished for what he did. But the same folks who talking about trust black women, listen to black women, didn't listen to her. But a whole lot of those same white women who were talking about, we're protecting black women like Ray Rice's wife, who they didn't listen to, a whole lot of them got jobs in the NFL's domestic violence awareness office or whatever it was they created out of that incident. And
I think, if I may interject, I think there was one black woman who they brought on as a consultant.
Yes.
I mean, she wasn't getting the big money they were getting.
No,
I doubt it.
So listen, when we bring up these issues, we try really hard not to stick to on the surface of the issue, the things that, the media talks about, the things that, people on the on the periphery of the issue talk about. We try to talk about all of the levels, and we're not here to defend or demonize individual people. That's not the point. So that is the reason we bring up. Now our dog is laying on the light on the
right.
lamp.
We're just hoping that this thing don't fall over.
Adventures in dog parenting. So here you have an NFL that has always had an image problem when it comes to those kinds of issues, domestic violence issues, because Ray Rice wasn't the first player who assaulted his significant other.
Exactly.
He a whole lot of white players did that, got slaps on the wrist. Hell, Ben Roethlisberger. How long did we talk about Ben Roethlisberger?
Oh my God! I mean, and even he said at the end of this season, when they asked him was he coming back to the Steelers, he even said, if they want me. He knows how fucked up he is.
So you're right, Atrocido. The NFL has been racist for a long time. They've had serious problems with these kinds of issues for a long time. So nobody should be surprised at how the NFL completely screwed up their whole pregame. What do you call it? What I don't even know what they try, but their race, they're fighting racism minstrel show. But before we get into that, we want to say hey to folks in the chat. What's going on? Phil.
Let's see who's out there.
Yep. Phil Winter, Trocido, how you going? Neil Sanger, howdy. Forrest Hinton. Forrest said that the Super Bowl will always be Janet Jackson Appreciation Day. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
we like that. We dig that. We dig that. Yes, Neil. We talked to on By Any Means Necessary. We have Nate Wallace of Red Spin Sports on our show every Friday. So definitely check out Red Spin Sports, y'all. Check out Nate Wallace and his crew over there. And you can hear Nate Wallace on By Any Means Necessary every Friday. And you better believe we're going to have him on this show very, very soon. Karina, how you doing? Good to see you, sis. Torches and pitchforks. We hope those are squirrels. Heather Morris, good to see you. Kai Watts. Hey, so all right, cool. It's good to see you all. We appreciate you. And everybody who is not on screen, who are just watching, hey, thanks, welcome.
What we call them, the shy viewers.
The Shikers, Stesha Marie, how you doing? The shy viewers, the lurkers, God bless you. Thank you for coming. So let's take a look at why this NFL effort at racial, whatever it is they were trying to do, is just some garbage. This is one of the reasons why. Lord have mercy.
I mean, wow.
Where the hell do I begin?
Look, I yearn for the days of the Dorito commercials, Budweiser commercials, and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, this was really pathetic. It
was really awful.
Yeah.
And let's try to walk through just some of the reasons why that particular commercial was awful. But I understand that there were other commercials along those lines that were just as bad. But this one was particularly cringeworthy. You're right, Neil Sanger. Cringe, hard cringe. Painful cringe. First of all, because
was it actually directed by Puffy? Somebody said it was directed.
Really?
I hope. I'm not sure. Is that true?
I don't know if it's true, but it wouldn't surprise me because Jay-Z.
Right. I forgot about the Jay-Z connection.
Okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
Let's start right there. That's a good place to start. Listen here. If this is what the result of Jay-Z's deal with the NFL was all about.
Right.
If this was the power moves that, remember when people were criticizing this deal that Jay-Z made with the NFL after Beyonce did that, Hollywood Black Panther type of yeah, whatever that, or Black Panthers tribute at the Super Bowl, and the radicals were like, you can't make a deal with the NFL that they are going to allow you to do anything to actually benefit us. Right. They are pulling the strings. This isn't a power move on your behalf. It's a power move on their behalf, because the NFL, they control the purse strings. They're throwing you some crumbs. And people who love Jay-Z and B or Bay or whatever they call it, they didn't want to hear it. No. They didn't want to hear it. Oh, they making power moves. And all y'all doing is marching and protesting. That's what a couple people I know personally told me. Yep. But if these are the power moves that are the result of Jay-Z's contract with the NFL, he can keep them. Where is the power in this? And let me, if those of you, if you're not familiar with who the person who was speaking is, the person who was doing the commentary is LaDainian Tomlinson. He's a former football player. And this was a speech that he gave when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2020. Now, this is important to point out because Tomlinson was being honored as a Hall of Fame player, and he said he revised his Hall of Fame speech because of the Black Lives Matter movement. And this is what he said, and I hope you guys can see, the comments from this article about this on the screen. He said, "I firmly believe that God chose me to help bring two races together under one last name, Tomlinson." I don't know what the devil that means, but that's what, in his mind, that's what he revised his speech from the 2017 Hall of Fame induction speech. So he revised it for this ad. Mm-hmm. He said, "I'm of mixed race and I represent America. My story is America's story. All our ancestors, unless we're American Indian, came from another country, another culture. Football is a microcosm of America. All races, religions, and creeds living, playing, competing side by side." So you heard that in his speech. Now, look, let's deal with what he said just right there. Mm-hmm. This whole idea that we all came from someplace else, so that all puts us in the same position on the same footing in this country, is garbage. Right. And it's not because we all came from someplace else. That's true. But how we all came from someplace else. Our ancestors didn't choose to be here. That's number one. Number two, this whole thing about I'm of mixed race. Don't say that kind of stuff when you're talking about our ancestors. Because our ancestors in this country and in every other country our ancestors were dropped off in along the transatlantic slave route, they weren't of mixed race because they were raping anybody. Right. Exactly. Well, what did James Baldwin say in the speech that we were listening to earlier? Yeah. Earlier, he said that my grandmother wasn't as light-skinned as she was, not because she was raping anybody. Right. Exactly. That's not how that went. So someone who is the descendant of a people who were brought here by force to be currency and forced labor, who were also raped, tortured, and bred for profit, it's not our job to bring together the two races, the group of people who were enslaved and subjected to that torture, and the group of people whose ancestors perpetuated that torture on our. That's not our job to bring those people. And this mindset that Black folks have that has been imbued in us by this white supremacist society, that it's our job to bring Black people and white people together. All that does is absolve white people of their responsibility for owning up to their shit.
Well, the thing of it is that, America is comfortable with this idealism of brotherhood and sisterhood and all this stuff. That's the reason why, every year, we always hear the I Have a Dream speech, even though Martin Luther King was still alive when he even became disillusioned of the speech. Right. But the thing of it is that, you're right, Jackie. And I think the biggest problem with that is when we see Black people in all of these different institutions in this country, and feeling that it's their duty in order to bring the races together. But one of the reasons why I've always had a problem with that, because it suggests is that we have to prove, or something wrong with us, and we're the inferior ones, and so we have to prove to the majority society or white people that somehow we're worthy of being into a brotherhood and sisterhood with you. So we just need to come together so you can see, not to get off the subject, but remember that video that was on it was making rounds on the internet, and I think this was after George Floyd, and you had this black man. I know he meant well, but he got, he was a dark-skinned guy with dreads. Many of you probably even remember this video. And it starts off as, I go to church every Sunday.
Oh, I remember that. Right. Yeah.
I wear a suit. I have a job. Right.
I'm more than what you see.
Right. I like opera. I pick roses in my yard. I walk my dog. When I sit down, I eat with a knife and fork. And it's like, I don't live in a hut. I actually have a nice $300,000 home. I've never had a parking ticket.
Right. Right.
And I was just like, please already.
Please stop justifying your existence to white people in a society that most white people, that a vast majority of the white people in this country are heavily invested in keeping exactly the way it is. And us appealing to their better angels and trying to appear that, look, we're decent people just like you. There's no reason for, all of the police violence, because if you only got to know us, you would know that we're just like you. And we're not sitting here just throwing shade at people just for the sake of throwing shade at people, although we do enjoy doing that sometimes.
But that's why y'all love us.
But
we go beyond the surface.
But this is what Tomlinson himself said. He said, how can I use this platform to address the nation and create some kind of a template on how to come together as one? He talks about, the idea of Team America is a concept that we need as a nation, is to be united, is to really care about our neighbors. Then he says, you got to take the chance and the opportunity to get to know someone that doesn't look like you. And when Black people say this, I really want Black people to understand that when you say this to white people never ever think that they're actually talking, that you're actually talking to them, because they are not interested in getting to know. And you know why they can do that? Because they don't live around us and they make it that way. Just the fact that I keep sharing the demographic map, and I'm going to have to dust it off.
Yeah, you got to dust it off.
And remind people again, most of the white people in this country do not live around us. And it's intentional. They mean it that way. They like it that way. So they don't want to get to know people who look different than they do.
Right. And oftentimes, even when, well-intentioned liberal white folks, even when they live in the same city we live in, oftentimes we're kept out by economics, because of the racial wealth gap being as vast as it is, a lot of times it'd be like, well, we're not preventing you from moving in this neighborhood. You just have to be able to earn $250,000, AMI in order to live here. What's preventing you from doing that? So, so again, there isn't any effort. And I was watching a video today on Dr. Martin Luther King, where he basically said the same thing. And this goes directly to the NFL, how everybody, could talk about, now I don't know too many of these players today because I stopped following football a while ago, but say in my day where you had people that used to cheer on Randall Cunningham, or they cheer on their favorite running back who's oftentimes Black, or they cheer Doug Williams, and all of these Black supermen that that they would sit up there and that's my guy, that's this and that, and that's the other. But it's superficial. It's superficial, because then it's like when you make something a thing, which is what racism in this country, systemic racism, has made us a thing. That's what you see us as. You know,
Right.
run nigga run, box nigga box.
Commodities.
You know? Right, commodities. So now, and I think what Kaepernick, and then, you know, sports figures before him, like when Muhammad Ali, and you know, back in the 60s,
Right.
and when the brothers in the Olympics, you know, so when that was tried before to get America's attention on its racial problem, the first thing it is that, well, you know, sports is not the place for that. And but when is the space? Because see the thing of it is that Kaepernick was forced to kneel because y'all wasn't listening to us in any other space.
Right.
So the marches didn't work because that's not the way you do it. I mean, anger didn't work. Oh, well, you know, I would
support you if you weren't so angry.
Right. If you weren't so angry, we would listen to you. So, you know, so we said, okay, well, you know, let's be peaceful. I mean, our ancestors, the John Lewis's, the ones y'all say you love so much, John Lewis got his head beat in by walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge and everything, and you know, and didn't. I mean, him and others bore the brunt of the brutality of racism, and yet the needle didn't move. So you know, so all of these things about, you know, only if you did it this way, only if you did. So the desperation came because look, nobody wants to keep on living in a society where they keep feeling like they're second and third class citizens. Nobody wants that. So what happens is you get desperate enough where someone says, well, man, I got this big platform. Millions of people are tuning in to see me play or to see us play. Damn it to hell. I mean, you ain't listening to me when I march.
Right.
You're not listening when I write a letter to the editor. You don't listen to me, you know, when we march in the streets, when we do this, when we do that, when we have protest. You don't listen. Even when we try to sneak it in our entertainment, you don't pay attention to that because you like the beat. You don't hear the words.
Right.
So what happened is the fact that I got this big platform. You know, let me at least make it known that this just isn't right. And then what happens? You get the backlash. You get the, oh well, you know, LeBron James, he took some of that. Well, you know, when he was trying to explain what everybody knows about the police brutality, Lauren Ingram talking about, well, you know, you should just shut up and dribble. Yeah. So I mean, so this type of disrespect that we would not, that this country does not put on anybody else.
Nope.
No other group. I mean, they don't put it on nobody else. There is never this callousness when it comes to the human rights of others. But when it comes to us, that, you know, it's all of a sudden like, well, you know, look, you know, you're an athlete. Why are you complaining? You got millions of dollars. Yeah, but how many athletes who had millions of dollars, and we've seen this in recent years, who still got murdered by the police, who still was treated unjustly? Right. You know, I mean, movie stars who's well known, black, all of them got a story of being, you know, being the victim of the racism in society. So the NFL is like this, and like all institutions in this country, Jackie, is that these institutions, including the NFL, needs to be modernized. And that is the resistance. The resistance is that these old edifices, these old structures that all of these institutions are built on in this country, that, you know, they're outdated. That
they're absolutely outdated, and they're all infected with, well, no, they're not infected with white supremacy. They're all white supremacist institutions. I don't care what it is, because they're all founded on white supremacist ideology. And I'm going to finish up with this LaDainian Tomlinson thing, because he says something that's really crazy. He says, football is a microcosm of America, all races, religions, and creeds, living, playing, competing side by side. You know what, LaDainian? That's a lie. And this is the problem that we have when we have athletes, movie stars, singers, I don't care who it is, who don't have a clear and firm understanding of the capitalist system in this country and how it's connected to white supremacy and what it does in order to maintain its power. It creates a system where none of us are equally competing side by side. How in the world can you talk about we came here because we were forced to come here? We were enslaved, we were commodified, we were forcefully bred, and the wealth gap is a chasm now because of the legacy of that. And somehow this man, black man, LaDainian Tomlinson, believes that he can unite the two races together because he thinks that that in America we're all living and competing side by side.
But I don't even know if he even believes that. And I used to say this about Obama. You know, when Obama, used to say the same thing. We heard these things from these, black famous people for a long time. Obama was probably, besides this guy, Obama was probably the latest manifestation of the hopeful Negro syndrome, I call it. But with that, which the masses of black people tune out.
Right.
Now this and this is the thing. The masses of black folks will hear a speech by Tomlinson, right? Mm-hmm. And like they did with Barack Obama before him. And the black masses, the ones that y'all, lock your doors on when you see them, and all the stuff, the ones that you drive through, all, what I call, the black extras of the country. Like it's like a movie, and you got the extras. You see them, but you don't.
Right.
This is what black people are in this country. We're extras.
You don't have to pay them scale.
You don't have to pay them scale. They're just, they just spread out through the movie, but you don't pay no particular attention to them, So that's what we are in this country. We're the extras. And so what happens is that the extras don't, it falls on deaf ear, because with all of this aspirational, idealism, the masses knew a long time ago that that's not true. They know that it has no bearings on their life.
Right.
And so this is, but this is one of the cruel ironies about capitalism in this country. We know that we were born here, our ancestors were born here to feed this capitalism, right? To build this capitalist nation. And the fact that even when we were so-called freed, the reason why we weren't given any reparations is because capitalism needs somebody to exploit. So it was already, okay, we'll free them. But then you said something about the convict lease system, all the different ways that they re-enslaved us, mass incarceration. Throughout our stay here. But all of this was, yes, it was evil, it was devious, it was all of those things. But the main thing is for economic reasons.
That's right.
Professor Richard Wolff, very good friend of ours, stated in his book, the Sickness is in the System, which I just read. And one of the things that he made it clear, which I agree with, is that black people, as brown people and poor people, are used as the shock absorbers for the capitalist failure. So the reason why I say that it's so insidious the way that it is, because you'll look at the athletes and all of the millions that LeBron has and all of this, but then when you look at how they're treated, they're not treated any different than us black extras who nobody sees.
That's right.
Both of us serve as commodities for the capitalists. So you might have LeBron James money, but as Chris Rock once said, LeBron James is rich, but the one who writes his check is wealthy. And so you see that even the owners and the rich wealthy elite, you see that they don't see them any different than they see us black extras who goes about our day and day existence not being seen by anybody.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So and this is what's so cruel about it. Their wealth, their fame, everything that they think their status had afforded them has not brought them out of the confines of the racist system, how they're viewed and how they're treated.
That's absolutely true. And it's these kind of feel good kind of comments that can be put to stirring music and inspirational images that are always used, from black people, from black athletes, from the few black elite that the system that is run by the white supremacist, the capitalist elite, always use to keep the rest of us in check. Because you know what else happened with all of the Super Bowl pre-game hoopla that people noticed, but as much as the NFL did with all these videos and declaring, you saw at the end of the video that the NFL will pledge $250 million to end systemic racism.
And that's chump change, because I know you had an article that showed you how much the NFL actually made last year.
Let me tell you something. First of all, how many times do we have to say that to end systemic racism in this country, you got to end capitalism? And capitalists are never going to end capitalism. They're not going to end their cash cow, so they ain't serious about ending some systemic racism. How do we know this is true? Well, because. So in all of this pregame hoopla, and there were some other ads, and all the black people and Alicia Keys singing "Lift Every Voice and Sing," and white people losing their minds because they found out that we have a song that they didn't know about, and now that they know about it, they don't approve.
Didn't approve it.
So Alicia Keys is apparently a black supremacist because she sang a black national anthem that white people didn't know we had. Now that they know, they're mad about it. They're mad, but die mad. I don't know what you want because they didn't approve of it, and now that they know about it, they don't approve. They're mad, but I'm just like, well, die mad. I mean, I like the song. I don't think, as James Clyburn said, that making it a national hymn is going to do a damn thing toward racial healing, but it's our song. You don't like it? Something too bad for you.
Yep.
But here's how we know the NFL is not serious about doing anything about systemic racism. This is an article in Fast Company, and I think there are a few tweets in here that are very important. You know who they didn't talk about? You know who they didn't mention in all of the pregame hoopla? Colin Kaepernick. The very person who set the NFL on this course of racial reckoning a few years ago. NFL didn't make any mention to him or Eric Reed or Michael Bennett or any of the black athletes and a few white athletes who have been in this struggle for racial justice from the beginning. They did not mention Colin Kaepernick. This is what this article in Fast Company is about. Excuse me. It says that long before Nike decided to put Colin Kaepernick in his 2018 ad, the quarterback's ongoing silent protest of police brutality against black people got him removed from the NFL. Let us not ever forget that Colin Kaepernick was and still is blackballed from the NFL.
Yes,
and the point in bringing that up is not to say that he should have a job in the NFL. That's just we bring that up to tell you, to remind you so that you never forget how far the NFL will go to avoid the issue that was raised by Colin Kaepernick. Rather than address the issue, they got rid of him. And they decided to punish anybody who would kneel, stand, or support him. That's why we say that.
But what they have done is they decide that, well, what we're going to do is that we're going to pick the ones who are more comfortable for us.
Right. This is why you have a black athlete, a black former football player in LaDainian Tomlinson with his words behind this ridiculous Super Bowl pregame ad about, ending systemic racism with a bunch of words that mean actually nothing and don't reflect the truth of the situation at all. Also, even though in Tomlinson's comments about the revision of the speech, he mentioned Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Tomlinson's words about Colin Kaepernick and Black Lives Matter were not included in the NFL ad.
Right, exactly.
As a matter of fact, none of the pregame shows before the Super Bowl and none of the so-called inclusion ads or whatever, the Inspire ads, that's what they're calling them, none of them mention police brutality. None of them mention Black Lives Matter. None of them mention Colin Kaepernick. So, of course, the NFL, Twitter rather, noticed that because Twitter misses nothing.
Right.
And yeah, these are all of the tweets. And I hope you can see them clearly. The first one is from Jamel Hill. In that Inspire Change commercial, the NFL forgot to show the part where they blackballed Colin Kaepernick, have only 3 black NFL head coaches and no majority black ownership.
Exactly.
We're going to get into that in a second. We saw the Inspire Change commercial. Someone else said, and this is what the NFL tweeted, because they tweeted the commercial out too. While our season is ending, our fight for equity is not. It takes all of us to create change and advance social justice. Learn more at NFL.com, Inspire Change. And then someone said, but still won't hire Cap. Not only won't hire him, but won't even mention the man's name.
Exactly.
That is egregious. That's an egregious affront to him and everything he did and stood for and everything he lost because of it. But it is an indication, it's a glaring indication of how far the NFL will still go to not actually address this issue. So this is a really great article with a bunch of tweets in Fast Company about the what do I want to call it? Whitewashing, greenwashing, green for the turf, the whitewashing of Colin Kaepernick from this whole racial inclusivity, sensitivity, whatever the hell it is that the NFL did. And speaking of the ownership of the NFL, this is why they won't do it. Let me make sure I got my stuff right this time. There we go.
Yeah, now this actually tells a big part of what we're trying to convey tonight.
Now, in order to understand why the NFL operates the way it does, and why we say the NFL is a white supremacist institution, it's not just that there is white supremacy in the NFL. It's not just that there is racism in the NFL. The NFL exists as a reflection of American society in the way that white supremacy is at the root and in control of every institution in this society, right along with capitalism, because there are, defensive coordinators in the NFL. What is it, 66 teams?
Mm-hmm.
There are only 5 defensive coordinators who are not white in the NFL. Somebody correct us for how many NFL teams there are. I can never get it straight. 30-something teams. I'm not sure. Anyway, but in all of them, there are only 5 defensive coordinators who are not white. There is only 1 general manager who is not white. There is only 1
32 teams.
Head coach. Thank you. 32. I don't know why I doubled it. Yep. It was like 32 teams. There are 32 NFL teams. Only 1 head coach who is not white. 31 total positions. 24 of those positions are filled by white men. Only 7 are filled by men of color. And that's just the general managers, the head coaches, the offensive coordinators.
This is not the support staff. We're not even talking about the support staff.
We're not even talking about the support staff. And you know who else we're not talking about? The owners.
The owners. Yep.
The owners. Most, if not all, if I'm not mistaken, all NFL teams are owned by white people.
Yes. Rich white men.
Mostly rich white men.
I mean, there was talk of Bob Johnson at one time wanting to buy the Carolina teams at one time.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Here's how we get tripped up with that kind of stuff. Because there were talks about Diddy buying a team, or maybe that was a basketball team. I don't know. But here's where we get tripped up with that kind of stuff. The people who own NFL teams will enter into a partnership agreement with other people to own NFL teams. Even rich Black people don't have enough money to outright buy a whole NFL team without entering into a partnership.
Yep.
So this was the situation with Diddy and what was it, the New Jersey Nets or something, or whether the basketball team?
It's supposed to be some basketball team. Well, even with Jay-Z. And this was the okie doke thing with Jay-Z with the Nets.
Thank you, Phil. It was Jay-Z with the Nets.
Right. When Jay-Z was, everybody was like, "Oh, Jay-Z making power moves." And found out, man, that he only had like a 1% share.
Precisely.
Yeah, come on. So I mean, he probably served bagels at the meeting, because he wasn't no significant policy maker there.
He didn't have enough. He didn't have a deciding interest in the stock in the team. Wasn't on the board. Had a one, like you said, 1% interest.
Right.
He ain't making no decisions. He ain't making no power moves. He's making some money for himself. right? But that's it. But he's being used by the team to say, look at how inclusive we are. Look at this black member of our team.
Right. He's the token.
So we're really glad that our friends over at Red Spin Sports are on. And they say the most egregious is the Kansas City offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, and Tampa Bay offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, not being head coaches this offseason. I mean, you got to check out Red Spin Sports to have them really get deep into why these issues of hiring black coaches, offensive coordinators, black people in these management and decision-making roles on these teams are really, really important. When it's not done, it's a constant fight. And it's really important in this conversation of the NFL fighting to end systemic racism. And here's another reason why that's also bullshit. From this, we should have gave a disclaimer at the beginning of this show that there's going to be a lot of cussing because So the NFL announces that they're giving $250 million to end systemic racism, right? And I don't know if they're going to give that $250 million to themselves, because the NFL has a systemic racism problem that has now been proven in an area other than the crappy hiring of non-white coaches, coordinators, and the existence of no black owners. And this is in an incredibly important area of NFL culture, and that is in the examination and the compensation for players who have suffered CTEs or concussion-related injuries. This was reported in the ABC News, but it was also carried by New York Post, of all places. And the article says that clinicians fear that the NFL's concussion settlement program protocols discriminate against black players. Now, listen, y'all, I don't know how the NFL is talking about they are committing $250 million to ending systemic racism, when in their own program that they have set up to compensate former players for their claims for concussion-related injuries discriminates against black players. This is not something we made up. Luke Mons didn't make this up because we hate the NFL and the white people who run the NFL. No, the clinicians who work in this program, who make the determinations on who should be compensated and who shouldn't be, their communication between each other have been revealed as a major part of this lawsuit against the NFL by two former black players who are suing the NFL for racial discrimination.
Well, one of the things about this $250 million that we failed to mention, that we mentioned now, that it's going to be over a 10-year period.
Oh, you mean it's like the $15 an hour minimum wage? They're not going to do it right now. No. They're going to spread it out over a few years. Right. You know, by that time, enough of us probably would have died from like starvation or whatever.
Now, the thing of it is that they did mention Kaepernick in their announcement of this. What they said was that when Kaepernick first took a knee, they basically gave him a shout out. They said we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be where we are today without the work Colin and other players have let off. This is what the I don't know who this guy is, but he's
who he is. Let's see.
He's a Policero or something. Like I said, I haven't been in the loop with these guys. But the thing of it is that was, and then when they say Colin Kaepernick's name, they just Colin. And,
right.
Yeah. So it's like, we wouldn't be here where we are today without the work of Colin.
It's really good.
Right. But according to this article that I have, Jackie, how the money is supposed to be spent is that they're going to fund 20 national social justice. It's going to be into 20 national grants. grants. And these grant partners, and the partners are going to make a matching contribution and to 350 local grassroots organizations that's supposed to be receiving this, right? So now the fund will balloon to $250 million, and it's going to be in criminal justice reform because, that's look, that's all we need. Is police reform and economic and educational advancement for African Americans. The league also announced it will continue to leverage NFL Network and its other media properties to, quote, place an increased emphasis on raising awareness and promoting education of social justice issues to our fans.
You know what? Screw them and their bullshit. A little announcement that they put on a website that they knew most people weren't going to go to.
Right.
And they didn't say any of that stuff. They especially didn't talk about Colin Kaepernick in public before the Super Bowl when they had all of this other coordinated.
They had the world watching, right?
But see, here we go. The NFL are hypocrites because in their own concussion program, what happens is players have to go to the NFL, these clinicians who measure the cognitive decline of the players. And if their cognitive decline is significant enough because of the concussions, then they're approved for their claim for compensation is approved. Here's the problem. The NFL insists that its concussion settlement program does not require that clinicians who evaluate former players for payouts to make race a factor in their determinations, but they do. Several of those clinicians, however, appear to disagree, and some of them fear that the league's recommended protocols discriminate against Black players. In August, a group of neuropsychologists who measure cognitive decline in former NFL players seeking financial compensation through the league's landmark settlement program took to their professional listservs to discuss some recent industry news. 2 Black former players, defensive end Kevin Henry and running back Najee Davenport, had filed a lawsuit against the NFL, accusing the league of explicitly and deliberately discriminating against Black players filing dementia-related claims. Let's see one neuropsychologist claimed that the league's program manual offered no flexibility in how they assess the cognitive decline of the players. And here's what they do. They do something called race norming, where players come in and everybody's supposed to have a baseline of cognitive function. Race norming, according to the NFL manual in their own concussion compensation program, race norming dictates that clinicians have to take into account that African American players have a lower cognitive level of ability than white players when they come into the league, right? So literally, Black players have less cognitive function than white players. So whatever cognitive decline Black players come into the league or into the concussion program with their claim for, the assessment has to be adjusted to account for the beginning lower cognitive decline that Black players supposedly had. What does this mean? It means that Black players have a higher standard of proof. They have to prove a greater level of cognitive decline than white players do. What does that mean? That means fewer Black players have their claims for concussion-related injuries approved than white players. And the clinicians who are making the assessments for the NFL point this out in their own communications on their listserv. One neuropsychologist claimed the league's program manual offered no flexibility to deviate from this race norming thing. They said, "I don't think we have the freedom to choose," the clinician wrote. "If we do, apparently many of us have been doing it wrong." Another clinician bemoan their possible complicity in a system that perpetuated racial inequality in payouts. Quote, especially in the correct of our current state of affairs, I'm realizing and feeling regretful for my culpability in this inadvertent systemic racism issue. As a group, we could have been better advocates.
Well, I mean, one of the things is I got up over here about the Civil Rights Act of 1991, where race norming was declared illegal.
So the NFL has a manual, and by the way, I'm sorry, y'all, you can get that article, read the rest of that article on ABC News. Let me put it up again so you can see it, and so you can grab it, so you can see the title: Clinicians Fear NFL's Concussion Settlement Program Protocols Discriminate Against Black Players. They do. So here you have a situation where, the NFL has a program in which race norming is used, but it has been deemed illegal. Clinicians have communicating between themselves admitted, yes, the manual tells us to do this, and the NFL is saying that we have the choice to not do it, and they're saying among each other, I don't see where they've told us that we have to do anything different, and if we do, then we get punished. But this is the same NFL now who is going to commit $250 million to ending systemic racism.
Yeah, and my point being is if the 1991 Civil Rights passed of the Civil Rights Act, which had clearly stated that race norming and any other means of changing or modifying employment-related tests on the basis of race or ethnicity is illegal. So if it's illegal, then why is the NFL still practicing it? That's not being entitled. That's not being entitled. What it is that you're using an illegal practice to prevent paying the benefits to your Black employees that they're rightfully owed to. That's not entitlement. That's justice.
That's just
and the problem of it so much is that so many people in this country feel that when it comes to us that justice has got to be entitlement. No, it's not entitlement. It's justice.
Especially in a league, in a profession, which over 80% I think of the players are Black.
Right.
And it's,
but that's what makes it even worse, because the thing of it is that if you got 80% of the Black players generating all of this income for the NFL, I mean, I think it was like $980 billion. If I can remember that the NFL $9.5 billion that the NFL have earned. And a lot of that, and every year they're making the media pay more and more to broadcast their games. So when you got a workforce of that's 80% Black, right? 80% Black now, that's almost the damn whole NFL. And they're bringing in $9.5 billion through their talent and effort. And yet you put in these illegal, unjust criteria that's based on stereotypes that go all the way back to slavery,
right?
Because that's where it comes from.
That's right.
Black people aren't the same as whites. They feel less pain. The Black buck is so strong that that, oh my God, it takes like a whole. I mean, we've seen these stereotypes play itself out in law enforcement, where we had to shoot him because he's a big Black male, and I mean, my God, how they get angry,
right.
I mean, the same way with the we talked about with yesterday with the way that our children are viewed, the adultification of our children, where they're not seen as children, and so their treatment is different than opposed to children of other groups. All of this stuff is rooted in slavery, just like the racist attitudes of that we have here is rooted in slavery. And the reason why they persist on and on and on is because this country has never dealt with it. There has never been an honest conversation. You look at idiots that get on here on the internet and stuff, and they flippantly talk all this ignorance and nonsense and stuff. But that's how much the dialogue has been in this country. The dialogue is like, well, nobody's trying to understand. And on one side, it's like, well, the country's been great to us,
right?
Because our ancestors, the government made sure our ancestors were good. Now, if of course, folks will say, well, my grandfather, he was poor, and it's like, well, we're not talking about these individual things,
right?
But on a collective, the country has been good to white people. So the thing, and that can't be denied. So but the country has not been as good to black people on whole. Don't give me Oprah. Don't give me Bob Johnson. Don't give me LeBron James. Don't cherry pick these people who you want to throw up in the faces of the masses of millions who has systemically been left out of the so-called American opportunity stuff. It's not a meritocracy. Anytime that yesterday when we got on air and we showed where a study was done that even 5-year-old black girls have already been labeled. Where's the meritocracy at?
Right.
When a kindergarten black girl is looked at as being less innocent than a white girl. And so, here it is. You only been in existence for 5 years, and all of a sudden white supremacy is saying that somehow you're worse. So don't sit up here and tell me that you're going to try to bullshit that little girl and to believe that in this society, all she got to do is work hard.
That's right. That's right.
Give me a damn break.
That's a damn lie. And the people who perpetuate that lie are the ones who are controlling the purse strings. Right. Listen, the NFL, these people talking about $250 million, like you said, to end systemic racism over 10 years, $250 million over 10 years. But this is from last year, July of 2020. NFL shared revenue hits a record $9.5 billion with a B as media payouts rise. This is important. $250 over 10 years.
Right.
$250 million over 10 years.
Right.
But each team,
right.
Each NFL team, 32 NFL teams, each team received $296 million from the league. That was up last year 8% from $273 to $274.3 million in 2018. The jump comes primarily from built-in increases to the league's broadcasting deals. Hold on. Wait. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Wow.
You mean to tell me the NFL doesn't have to demand more money? They don't have to negotiate a contract from the media for more money? The increases are built in. They're automatic. If people want to advertise with the NFL, they got to pay whatever the NFL says every year, even if the cost goes up every year. It is built in. But in order to get $250 million over 10 years, Colin Kaepernick had to kneel and suffer the racist, terroristic, fascist violence because the man got death threats. His family got death threats of the NFL fans and more than half of the white population of this country and the politicians.
And his ability to make a living.
Lost his ability to make a living at his profession. Players who were united with him were also castigated and scorned. Then you had politicians going after Black Lives Matter even more because of our support for Kaepernick. And this was over several years. All that had to happen to get $250 million over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
But
this is the thing, Jackie. How many more billions are those 80% of black players are going to be generating each year of those 10 years?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Because the players, even because, the people always throw in our faces, well, look, the NFL is a great opportunity for some of these people. They wouldn't be making this kind of money if they weren't playing for the NFL.
Of course not.
If they don't get an increase in their pay that's automatic, they have to renegotiate their contracts every year. And the league, the team owners, have to decide if they want to pay what these players ask.
Now, mind you now, a football player's career is the shortest in sports.
The shortest, which is why this concussion settlement program and the racism in it is so important.
Exactly.
It is so important. So it's incredibly hypocritical for the NFL to have this huge, feel good, racial sensitivity, whatever this bullshit was at the beginning of the Super Bowl, and talking about committing $250 million to ending systemic racism
over 10 years.
Thank you.
Because I'm going to keep on
because we should over 10 years. Right. But each team gets basically $270 million every year. Every single year.
Right.
Every year.
And
they don't have to ask for it.
Now I want to ask our audience out there. Some of you are good at math, right?
Oh my God.
I know we got some audience members out there who are good at math. Can anybody tell me if over the course of 10 years, break that $250 million down over 10 years and how much it actually is going to be on a yearly basis?
Somebody better do it.
Right.
Y'all get to it. There's a little chart for you that shows the growth in the NFL's revenue. Yeah, steady growth over the years, every single year. And it's automatic. The increases are that just blows my mind. I didn't even know that.
But this is what makes this so bad. Because these owners, even with all of this money that's flowing into their coffers, they still when they still go to these cities, they still go to these city governments and stuff and extort tax breaks and money to build a stadium, and then they threaten we'll move the team and all of these gangster tactics.
Yep.
For the team to stay where they are, or for the owners to have their way. Yet these jokers ain't losing nothing.
Not a dime. Not a dime. These people, thank you, Forrest. Forrest says 25 million.
25 million.
So these people made this huge announcement like they were Santa Claus on Christmas morning, talking about we are committed. We're going to commit $250 million to the fight for to ending systemic racism. Then we dig down into the fine print and we find out it's $250 million over 10 years. And what does that translate to? $25 million a year.
From a $9.5 billion budget earnings that they, not budget, earnings that they received last year. $25 million. That's, if you were to put that in real people's terms, that's like finding some loose change in your couch cover.
I mean, and not only the $9.5 billion, but each team, each of the 32 teams gets an equal share of the pot. $270 billion.
All right, so you got 32 teams, right?
$1 million. Yeah.
32 teams. And you said, and they get what each team?
274, all right. 270,
so
$290 million.
All right, so basically what you're saying is each team got to do is put up $1 million to pay for that year's black tax.
And let's go back to what you said about meritocracy, because folks always talk about, well, you just have to work hard, and you could, even the teams that suck get the same amount of money.
Right.
Even the teams that don't make it out of the fucking playoffs, who don't make it to the playoffs, they get $296 million. You think that's fair? You still think it's a meritocracy? That's okay, though. And these same teams who get $296 million, amount of money going up every single year automatically. Nobody has to ask for it. Like you said, they come into these cities and they always go into neighborhoods that are poor, full of poor folks, full of black folks, full of Latinx folks, full of working class folks with a low tax base, a lot of people living in apartments. And they say, well, we want to build a stadium here,
right.
but we're not going to pay any taxes. Or we'll create some jobs, but all the jobs are seasonal, part-time, and minimum wage.
And now, so you build these stadiums, and then now people got to be displaced.
Yep.
I mean, whole infrastructure turned around. And yet, instead of them coming out of their pockets, the cities and where they doing this hustle at have to shortchange basically their citizenry in order to bring a stadium here, while this fat cat with the billions of dollars don't have to pay anything. Now, Forrest Hinton said that this only is less than 10% of their budget.
Yep.
For each, I mean,
less than 10%.
Now, why is that 10% such a magical number?
I don't know.
You know why?
Why?
Because even when we had to defund the police, racists love 10%. You know what I mean?
Nice round
it's a nice round number because you had the New York police department when they said, well, we'll cut something off our budget.
Right.
You know, LA, we'll cut a little something off.
10%.
But we are 10%, So this is the thing. Racists love 10%. They do. They do. It's like, okay, we'll give you 10%. Now, for this entity of the NFL, and we done already went through their earning potentials and what they made and stuff, to give 10%, less than 10% of their budget for an organization that depends on 80% of Black people that came from these backgrounds to earn them this money is criminal.
Yeah. And the point you were making about, the police budgets being cut, in some of the major cities by 10%. Oh, they make it like it's a big deal.
Right.
It's 150. We cut $150 million from our budget.
We're gonna be eating oodles and noodles. The cops there.
But your overall police budget is $3 billion.
Right.
That's LA. That's Los Angeles.
Oh, that's Baltimore.
That's Baltimore. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So this whole thing that the NFL has done, and we didn't even talk about everything because there's just so much ridiculousness. I don't even want to talk about everything.
Y'all got our point.
But we hope you got the point, and we understand that there are folks on here who don't agree, and we don't really give a shit. That's not. Well, I mean, the truth is what it is. You can disagree with our commentary, but if you want to disagree with the facts and the numbers, then that's a personal problem you have because the facts and the numbers are what they are.
Well, see, the thing of it is that in Luke My Nation, we're not satisfied with mediocrity. We're not satisfied with settling. We think that Black people have settled too long in this country, have been settling too long. We're not satisfied with the token crumbs from the table of these capitalists. It was our labor, it was the labor of our people that built this country. Our blood that was shed, and our intellectual properties that propelled. I mean, every time I love this social media thing because when I was in school, we talked about this before, so much information that was hidden from us. Now you go into social media and you find out how Black people were instrumental in developing this, developing that. And the fact that the vaccine now, that there's a Black woman in the National Institute of Health who was responsible for the basic compounds of what they put into this vaccine. So, so the thing of it is that, that's all well and good, but we're going to stop. We have to stop settling for these little crumbs and be told, well, take this and shut up.
Right.
And all that shaming tactics that these daggone ignorant, dumbass racists sit up here and talk about, well, the Irish, they're not going to be angry. Well, I mean, well, good for them. Good for them. But they don't determine, they don't determine shit for us. And, and the thing of it is that they ain't got nothing to do with us and we ain't got nothing to do with them. So whether they get angry or not, that's on them. So the thing of it is that we're talking about us. We're talking about our survival here. We're talking about justice, which has never been really meted out the way that it should be. Everybody wants to dance around, around the issues,
right?
But the thing of it is that we are tired of, as I said before earlier, is that we're tired of this what we call three-card Monty way of the way that they've been doing us. And the fact that, we're tired of being the shock absorbers of a ruthless, parasitic capitalist system.
And we hope that at least we got you to look at how the capitalists who control sports entertainment use it to fool us into thinking they're doing something good for the people, but really all they're doing is throwing more crumbs at folks and raking in way more money than you and I really understand that they're making.
Now, if Jackie and I, if we were giving the ability to be able to have all Black folks listen to us, right? If we had the ability to have all Black people follow us like we're Moses and Mosette, right? And the first thing we would do, because people say, "Oh, y'all, you always talk about the problem." But the thing of it is that if Jack and I had the ability to have all black folks listen to us, the first thing we would say to black people at all levels is to go on a general strike. Yes. I don't care what industry you're in. Yep. I don't care whether I don't care if you're in professional sports. Mm-hmm. I don't give a damn if you work at McDonald's. Mm-hmm. Disinvest yourself from this capitalist parasitic system, and then we start to organize and create a parallel system that mm-hmm. works for us.
That's right.
Because that's the problem. We've been talking too much about reformation, and the reforms still don't work for us. So what that means is, and I don't apologize for it, is that we're not going to get justice in a system that was never designed for us, that was designed to suck the lifeblood out of us, mm-hmm. and then pass the blueprint down to every other group, saying, "Oh, you coming to America? You want to get rich? Go to the black community. Oh, you coming to America? You want to get rich? Go to the black community." So that blueprint that the original white capitalists had, oh man, they shared that with everybody. So right. Now everybody come here and they be like, "Well, this is how we're gonna get our American dream, by going to the black community." The problem is that when we took the blueprint, you bombed our cities.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We had a Rosewood, we had a Black Wall Street,
right.
We had all this stuff. So we get that. Well, pull yourself by your bootstraps, and we pull ourselves by our bootstraps. And what we get bombs and Klan, and, mm-hmm. and we get we get the Rosewoods, and we get the Black Wall Streets and stuff. We get the summers of 1919 and all that stuff. When we try to do something, we just outright just have the banks and stuff just steal from us, mm-hmm. and we have the government have policies and stuff where they just say, "Well, look, we're just going to just have eminent domain. We're just mm-hmm. going to put the highways through the neighborhood. Right.
Destroy the neighborhoods. Right.
And so we're going to rearrange. So, so no other group had to go through that. So this is the reason why all of this, insults and stuff that the dumb racists try to give is stupid, because the thing of it is the fact that, first of all, they're ignorant, but when you know what's been done to you, you understand that that this was orchestrated and this was planned. And so what I'm saying is that this is the same system that did all of that, and we're trying to reform it. We're trying to take a outdated plantation and put some paint on it, and maybe try to put a new roof on it, mm-hmm. and think that it's going to be any different.
It's a nicer plantation.
No. You got to blow it up. Tear that plantation down. Mm-hmm. You might want to put a plaque over here, something, say, "Yeah, it once was here." But it is time, if we want to be able to compete in this world, when you got the rise of other nations like the Chinese and everybody else. Because see, one thing about life is cyclical. And so, and the thing about life, there's rises and there fall. Nations come and nations go. This nation is going to go too. But the thing of it is that if this nation wants to stop the acceleration mm-hmm. of its destruction, you'll never compete with China by the way we treat each other in this country. You'll never compete with the Arabs, the ones that so many people hate. They sent a probe to Mars. United Arab Emirates sent the probe to Mars. The desert people, they sent the probe to Mars. And how they do that? By selling us oil. So the thing of it is that we are never, as a nation, going to be able to live up and be number one like we think we are, is because what we do? We exclude too many people, and we hurt ourselves because we are excluding so much potential that could be used to make this nation even greater. This is the real sin of America. This is the real sin, that we are stupid enough, that this nation is stupid enough to exclude so many people that they can't even benefit from the talents, the gifts, or anything else that could really make this nation number one. So it's always going to be operating on 3 cylinders as opposed to 8.
That's right. And then they turn around and they blame those people that they push off to the side and crush for, their own oppression. No, we know what the game is. We understand the capitalist system in this country. And look, we really appreciate you sticking in with us. We could cuss a whole lot more, but I mean, we will never stop criticizing this system and the way capitalism and white supremacy work hand in hand to keep us oppressed, broke, sick, and the laughing stock of the rest of the world, which is made up of people of color who are working in solidarity to fight the capitalist imperialism, the capitalist white supremacist imperialism of the United States. We better get on board because the rest of the world is leaving us behind.
That's right, Lisa. Until the system dies, none of us will have any measures of peace. Or as my man Bain would say, we are America's reckoning.
So thanks so much, y'all, for joining us. We appreciate you. If you like what you see here in Lukman Nation, please consider becoming a patron. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Lukman Nation, LUQMANNATION. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook, Coffee, Current Events, and Politics in Lukman Nation. We will see you next week, I think, with another show. And if something big pops off, we're probably not going to pay that much attention to the impeachment because really, what else do we have to say about what the heck is going on? But hey, we will definitely have a regularly scheduled show next Wednesday.
Yeah,
I believe at 7:30.
Right.
And until
just get
then,
the notifications. I mean, they'll tell you.
Yeah, follow us. If you follow us on all of those platforms, you'll get a notification about something. Definitely check out Red Spin Sports. Our comrade Chris Wallace.
Yep. Shout out to Chris.
Yeah, it's time for me to go to bed.
Hey, love you too, Lion King.
Yes, we love you, Lion King. We love y'all. Thank you so much, David Silberg, David Ottness, Heather Morris, everybody, Lisa Catlett. Thanks so much, y'all. Appreciate you very much. As always, be really, really good to each other. And as Chairman Fred Hampton said, I say to you, peace, if you are willing to fight for it. So y'all take care. Hey, look at our patrons.
I believe the children are our future. Keep them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children laugh.
You did not do the Negro
Remind us how we used to be.
I know the wall's closing in. Don't you dare give up now. Won't believe if we pull up through some bucks down. Tied to the valet, pull the truck round. Push the line up that we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And ain't the best for my region, you gotta utter mine.